How's it going, y'all? Wallamoose here. In today's video, we're going to talk about status conditions and how they affect Pokemon in TCG. Now, there are 5 main status conditions, and they are Burn, Poison, Paralyze, Confusion, and Sleep. Each status condition is indicated with a different either orientation or marker on the card. 2 of them are indicated with markers, 3 are indicated by rotating your card. So let's go over the markers first. So if your Pokemon is either burned or poisoned, you will put an indicator marker on them. These markers usually come with ETBs. The burn marker is red, it's got a flame on it, and poison is a purple marker. By marker, I mean a coin with like a little wave on it. Now, confusion, Paralyze, and Sleep are indicated by rotating your card. So if your Pokemon is confused, you'll rotate your card upside down. If your Pokemon is asleep, you'll rotate your card so the top faces the left. If your Pokemon is paralyzed, you'll rotate it so the top is facing the right. Because 3 of the 5 status conditions are indicated by rotating your card, you can only have one of those 3 at a time. And whichever one happens last is the one that is in effect. So if your Pokemon is asleep and then gets paralyzed, your Pokemon is now just paralyzed. However, the other 2, Burn and Poison, that are indicated by markers, those aren't limited to one at a time. So you can have a Pokemon that is burned, poisoned, and asleep. Now let's talk about how to remove status conditions. And before I do that, it's important to note that sleep and paralysis are the only 2 status conditions where you cannot pay the retreat cost to retreat your Pokemon. Now you can play a switch and switch those Pokemon, you just can't pay the retreat cost. That being said, let's get into how to remove status conditions. So the first one, kind of segue into that, is retreating your Pokemon. So only the active Pokemon can have status conditions. Nothing on the bench can. So if you retreat your active Pokemon to the bench, that removes all status conditions. The next way is to evolve. So if you have an active Pokemon that has a status condition that's a basic and you evolve it into a stage 1, that removes all status conditions as well. And then the third way is to either play a card or a supporter that specifically removes a status condition. So I think like Pokemon Center Lady is a new card that just came out. That one removes status conditions. So if you play that, you can remove it. So recap, retreating, evolving, and playing a card that removes status conditions are all 3 ways to remove those conditions on your Pokemon. You just got to remember, you can't pay the retreat cost for paralyzed or asleep Pokemon. Now let's get into the final part, and that is what happens to the Pokemon with those status conditions. So each status condition is resolved at the checkup phase. And the checkup phase is the phase between 2 players' turns. And so after you finish your turn and before it's your opponent's turn, there is the checkup phase where everything is resolved. So what you do if your Pokemon is burned is during every checkup phase that the Pokemon is still burned, you place 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. After you place those 2 damage counters, you'll flip a coin, and if it's heads, your Pokemon is no longer burned. If it's tails, it'll be burned until the next checkup phase, and you repeat the process all over. If your Pokemon is poisoned during the checkup phase, you will place 1 damage counter on that Pokemon. No coin flip, it remains poisoned until the condition is resolved by one of the 3 ways I mentioned before. So next up is confusion, and this is the only one that's different that doesn't resolve during the checkup phase. It actually happens when you attack. So if your Pokemon is confused, if you go to attack, you have to flip a coin. If heads, you can attack as normal. If tails, you put 3 damage counters on that Pokemon and your attack does not go through. Now, it's important to note that if your Pokemon's confused and you flip heads, that doesn't resolve the confusion. That just means you can attack. The only way to remove it is to do one of the 3 methods I mentioned before. Next up is sleep. So if your Pokemon's asleep, you cannot pay the retreat cost. You can also not attack. So asleep can be kind of detrimental. And what you do is during the checkup phase, you'll flip a coin, and if it's heads, your Pokemon will wake up. If it's tails, it remains asleep until the next checkup phase, and you do it all over again. Last up is paralysis. And remember, you cannot pay the retreat cost to retreat if you're paralyzed. You can also not attack for that turn. However, after your turn is up, during that checkup phase, you actually remove the paralysis. So it only lasts for one of your turns, which isn't too bad. So that's about it. That's the basics for the 5 status conditions in the Pokemon TCG. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. And if you like this video, think about hitting the thumbs up, subscribing, do all that fun stuff. And I appreciate you for watching. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.